New reports say the FBI used a controversial dossier of alleged contacts between President Trump and Russian agents as evidence for a secret surveillance warrant. Sources confirmed to CBS News that the FBI obtained the dossier full of allegations that Russian intelligence has compromising information about the president.
The dossier also claimed the Russians had contact with former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. The FBI later asked a judge for a so-called FISA warrant to monitor Page's communications. He denies any wrongdoing. With us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
This dossier is controversial. Do you believe this dossier?
Well, one of the things that we have to investigate through our committee is were the issues and allegations made in the dossier accurate? Were some of them accurate? Were all of them accurate? Were none of them accurate? That is certainly something we're looking into. It's not really something, frankly, I can discuss on this program, but this is a matter of deep interest and concern for the committee.
And relevant.
Oh, yes, absolutely relevant. But again, we have to see whether it can be substantiated.
So when can we expect another hearing from your committee?
Well, happy to report that our committee is really back on track. We have a new Republican lead, Mike Conaway of Texas. I think he's a very serious guy. We've had a number of good conversations since he took the Republican reins. I think he is quite determined.
In the next week?
Well, we are in the process of agreeing on the first tranche of witnesses, talking about scheduling hearings.
Will called to testify?
I certainly hope so. We are obviously pushing for that.
Why wouldn't, if you're hoping so, why wouldn't it happen?
Well, it's not my decision alone, but I do think, and I've certainly tried to make this case, that it's very important that our committee not only do what work we have to do in the closed session, but do as much in open session as we can, bring the public along in the course of the investigation. Otherwise, if we go on for months and months and then we suddenly issue a report, I don't think it'll have the public's confidence if they haven't seen how we have proceeded with the investigation. So I'm hoping that where we can, we do as much of this as possible in public.
Do you believe that when President Trump saw whatever he saw and said what he did about President Obama, he had seen something from Susan Rice?
I think, and again, I'm speculating about the president's motives here, which is a very tough thing to do with this president, or probably any other. I think that he was, looking to make an accusation against his predecessor to deflect attention from the issues involved in the Russian investigation, and then forced to back it up, and may have dispatched his staff to try to find something.
So that's when Susan Rice came in at that point when he was trying to back it up.
Let's clear that up, because I think it's important not to malign Susan Rice, because there's no evidence on that particular charge. In fact, Ryan Lizza of The New Yorker just reported recently on documents.
We're not talking about backing it up. We're talking about what the president was acting on.
Yeah, so Ryan Lizza is reporting that he spoke with intelligence sources who said the names of Trump associates were masked in those documents that Devin Nunes viewed at the White House and that you subsequently viewed at the White House. Can you clarify that?
Well, I can't go into the contents of any of the documents, but I can say I think it was reckless of the president to make the accusation against his predecessor that he was illegally wiretapped by Obama. I think it was reckless of him to accuse Susan Rice of engaging in some criminality. These are not actions that anyone should do without evidence, and they're not something that the President of the United States ought to do in any event, level these kind of accusations. So we, as a part of our ordinary oversight, look at issues of minimization of whether names were masked or unmasked properly. We're going to review all that. We were doing that anyway, even before this investigation. But I don't think casually suggesting people are engaged in illegality makes sense for anyone to do, and least of all the President of the United States.
Do you think what Nunes did has tainted your committee, or the committee?
I think it cast a real cloud over the committee, and I think he made the right decision, although I'm sure it was a very hard decision for him to step aside. We now have, I think, a fresh start, and we are very much back to where we should have been to begin with before the whole White House thing. So we are scheduling witnesses. We are agreeing on the process for how we'll interview them. We are agreeing on how we'll request documents. We are also continuing the review of the classified documents pertinent to the investigation. So all of that is, once again, proceeding at pace the way it should, and I think we're back to restoring the integrity of the investigation.
You also see the latest information on North Korea, correct?
Yes.
Bloomberg is reporting that North Korea may now possess between 10 and 25 nuclear weapons, and that's on top of U.S. estimates that they have the world's largest chemical weapons stockpiles. Can you confirm that?
Well, I can't confirm the specifics of it because that would require me to use information I have on a classified basis. But I can say that probably the most serious national security crisis this president is going to face is when the regime gets to the point where it can miniaturize a nuclear device and put it on an intercontinental ballistic missile. That point will probably come during this 4-year term of the president. So that challenge is coming if something doesn't change. And the key, I think, here, and I think the president is right about this, the key is China. Getting China to really crack down on North Korea's programs, both missile and nuclear. Thus far, China has only been willing to, I think, go through superficial efforts to do that. I think we can take steps to press upon China the need to do much more. And it's not going to come from the president asking nicely or asking unnicely. I think what it will come with is an acceleration of the implementation of theater missile defense, a greater naval presence in the region, and telling China, look, we're going to have to pose secondary sanctions, that is, sanctions on your banks for doing business with North Korea if you don't act. These are steps the Chinese don't want to see happen. They don't want to see a greater military presence by the U.S. in the region. But if we underscore that we're going to have to do this to protect ourselves and our allies, then maybe that gets China to act.
Is the toughest problem for North Korea either developing an ICBM or being able to miniaturize the nuclear warheads?
Well, I think they're both a challenge, but frankly, both a challenge that they are on the path to overcoming. They're making sufficient progress, both with their nuclear program and with their missile program, that I think we have to reasonably expect that they will get there if things don't change.
Within 4 years, you've said.
I believe so, and prudently, I think we have to expect so. It still may not be enough even if we get China's help, but we need to explore every diplomatic possibility, because I'll tell you, the military options are all terrible. And it's part of the reason why I think the president is on very dangerous ground with all the saber rattling.
When he said he was sending an armada there, and that turned out not to be the case.
Well, it turned out not to be the case, which, you know, is more than embarrassing, because, of course, if the provocation of saying that caused the North to react and we didn't have our capabilities in the region, that would compound the problem. But North Korea can devastate Seoul, South Korea, just with conventional artillery. They don't need to use a nuclear weapon to do that. So this is a very combustible situation. And I think the president needs to be very careful not to either explicitly or implicitly draw red lines he's not prepared to follow up.
Including 30,000 U.S. troops in South Korea.
Absolutely.
Hardly one for miscalculation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Congressman Schiff, very nice to have you at the table.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.